At first, everything on the farm continued as usual. The livestock kept grazing in the pasture, the fences showed no signs of intrusion, and the distant woods remained quiet whenever night fell. However, before long, unusual signs began to appear with increasing frequency. Several young animals repeatedly strayed from the herd, while the guard dogs often faced the woods and barked for long periods in the middle of the night. In the soft mud near the creek, a series of unfamiliar tracks formed a clear trail, suggesting that a predator had approached the area more than once. Those tracks eventually revealed the presence of a wolf pack. Wolves do not need the overwhelming strength of a bear or the explosive speed of a big cat to be effective predators. Their greatest advantage lies in the close coordination among members of the pack. Some wolves move ahead to scout, others remain farther behind, while the adults continuously watch for changes in their surroundings. Through effective communication and careful use of the terrain, they can approach a target while leaving behind almost no obvious signs of their presence. Once the pack's movement patterns became clear, wildlife specialists began selecting suitable locations for the control operation. Instead of placing equipment throughout the entire area, they focused on points the wolves were almost certain to pass through. These were usually narrow game trails, openings between two large thickets, or strips of ground between a rocky slope and the creek. At these locations, foothold traps were carefully concealed beneath the soil, and the surface was then restored until it looked exactly as it had before. Every layer of dry leaves, grass, and topsoil was returned to its original position, so that no sign of disturbance remained visible. Human scent was also kept to an absolute minimum because wolves can detect even the slightest environmental change with their highly developed sense of smell. A fresh footprint or a single displaced branch can cause them to stop and inspect an area for a long time. The moment they detect an unfamiliar scent or notice an object that does not belong, the entire pack may immediately leave and completely change its route. For that reason, success depends less on the number of devices being used and more on understanding the wolves' habits and reactions. Wolves rarely rush into an area where something has recently changed. They may stop at a distance, watch for an extended period, test the air, and examine the ground several times before moving forward. Because of this, every new track, each camera sighting, and every subtle change in their direction becomes valuable information. After several weeks of patient monitoring, an adult wolf finally appeared along its familiar route. It slowly emerged from the edge of the woods, followed the creek, and moved toward the location that had been prepared in advance. The wolf stopped several times to survey its surroundings, but everything still looked natural, and it noticed nothing unusual. When the animal stepped into the exact spot that had been selected, the trap mechanism was triggered. The entire event unfolded within seconds, and the management team quickly arrived to carry out the necessary procedures. However, controlling one animal did not mean the entire problem had been solved, because the remaining wolves often respond quickly to any change within the pack. Within a short time, the cameras showed that the pack had shifted to different routes, began appearing later at night, and kept a greater distance from the farm. In response to that adaptation, the specialists were forced to keep adjusting their strategy, relocating cameras, and strengthening protection around the livestock areas. The battle of wits between humans and wolves is never determined by traps or equipment alone. It is a long-term process that requires patience, careful observation, and a deep understanding of how wolves move, react, and adapt to their environment. Things rarely begin with a loud attack. They begin with subtle signs, so small they are almost overlooked amid the familiar rhythm of life on the farm. A flock of sheep suddenly huddles tightly into the corner of a pen in the middle of the night. The guard dogs bark relentlessly toward the dark forest. By the next morning, a few deep tracks appear in the damp soil beside the fence. They do not belong to domestic dogs, nor do they resemble the prints of foxes or coyotes. Long toes, evenly spaced strides, and a straight path, as if the animal that left them had passed through this place many times before. The wolves had returned. Along the border where farmland meets the mountains and forest, the return of wolves always brings a quiet sense of unease. They do not hunt recklessly. Instead, they watch patiently, memorize the habits of their prey, and use the cover of darkness to move closer little by little. A lone wolf is dangerous enough, but a coordinated pack is far more unpredictable. They may spread out across an area, test the reactions of livestock, inspect fences, and wait for the weakest moment before making their move. That is why trapping wolves is never as simple as setting a trap and hoping for luck. Wildlife managers begin by reading the entire landscape as though it were a living map. They study old game trails, dry creek beds, forest edges, hillsides, and open spaces that wolves naturally use as travel routes. From these details, they understand one essential truth. Before you can control a wolf, you must first understand how it thinks. The greatest challenge lies not in the trap itself, but in patience. Wolves are extraordinarily cautious animals. A single unfamiliar scent, a patch of disturbed soil, or even a newly placed object can be enough to make one change its route. Specialized wildlife teams never rush to intervene. They spend time monitoring wind direction, the hours when wolves appear, the intervals between their movements, and their reactions to even the smallest changes in the environment. Once clear patterns begin to emerge, an ambush point is carefully selected along a natural travel corridor the wolf frequently uses. It is not the widest location, nor the easiest to see, but the place the animal is almost certain to step through if it intends to continue along its familiar route. The trap is prepared according to established wildlife management protocols, minimizing risk while avoiding unnecessary disturbance to other species. Everything around it is left almost untouched. The forest remains silent, the ground stays blanketed with dry leaves, and the trail appears as though no human hand has ever disturbed it. Then, on a cold night as mist begins to settle over the valley, the monitoring screen captures a familiar movement in the darkness. A wolf appears at the edge of the frame. It does not rush, nor does it seem alarmed. It pauses for a few seconds, lifts its head to test the air, and then continues forward. Every step is slow but deliberate. The observers can hardly breathe. In the very next moment, as the wolf steps into the carefully calculated position, the trap mechanism is triggered. The silence of the forest is shattered in an instant. The rapid response team immediately moves in, following established safety procedures. For them, this is not a battle to prove humanity's strength against nature. It is a mission to balance livestock protection, reduce human-wildlife conflict, and responsibly manage one of nature's most intelligent predators. Yet even after one wolf has been captured, the story is far from over. The remaining members of the pack will change their behavior. They may avoid their old route, become active later at night, or seek out deeper, more secluded paths through the forest. Wolf trapping, therefore, is not simply a story about equipment or technique. It is a prolonged battle of strategy between humans and a predator that can observe, remember, and adapt. In the wild, where every footprint carries a message, victory does not belong to the impatient. It belongs to those who have the patience to listen to the forest, read every sign it leaves behind, and act at precisely the right moment.
What makes wolves a nightmare for many farms is not only their speed or razor-sharp fangs, but also the way they appear silently before people even realize they are there. For several nights in a row, a pack of wolves crept in from the edge of the forest. They memorized the location of the animal pens and observed every movement around the farm. It was only when several chickens disappeared, leaving behind scattered feathers, that everyone understood the farm had become a target. From that moment on, the confrontation was no longer simply about protecting livestock, but had turned into a prolonged battle of wits between humans and one of nature's most cunning predators. Instead of rushing to set traps, the wildlife management team chose to monitor the wolves for several days. Infrared cameras were installed along forest trails, beside fences, and in areas where fresh tracks were frequently discovered. Every recording was reviewed several times to determine when the wolves appeared, which direction they approached from, and how close they came to the livestock area. Night after night, a clearer picture gradually emerged. The wolves were not moving randomly. They repeatedly followed familiar routes, using darkness and the surrounding terrain to avoid human attention. Once their movement patterns had been identified, the trapping operation began. Every location was selected based on camera footage and signs found in the field. The people setting the traps wore gloves, minimized their scent, and carefully concealed each trap beneath layers of soil, dry leaves, and decaying grass. Afterward, all footprints were erased, and every disturbed branch was returned to its original position. Even the smallest unusual detail could make a wolf suspicious and cause it to change course, so careful preparation became the deciding factor in the entire operation. The following days remained tense. Cameras repeatedly captured wolves approaching the trapping area, slowly sniffing the ground before becoming alert. Sensing that something was different, they refused to move any closer and quietly turned away. Some returned during the following nights, but they kept a safe distance and watched from afar. Rather than immediately changing the plan, the residents continued monitoring the cameras, recording the time of each appearance, the direction of travel, and the trails the wolves used most often. After several days, the residents realized that the wolves were exceptionally cautious and appeared to have detected the unusual changes around the area. Instead of continuing to wait at the original location, they quietly changed their approach and installed additional traps along the trails the wolves regularly used. Every step was carried out carefully to leave as little evidence as possible. After many nights of patient observation, the long-awaited moment finally arrived. A wolf entered the new location and triggered the trap. When the residents returned the following morning, they understood that the result had not come from luck, but from persistent observation, careful behavioral analysis, and constant tactical adjustment. Even so, the confrontation was far from over. The remaining wolves quickly changed their approach. They stopped using the old routes and began following the forest edge, moving through dense brush and approaching the fence from more concealed angles. In response, the residents installed additional cameras, reinforced the livestock enclosures, repaired openings, and repositioned traps according to the latest signs. The struggle between the people and the wolf pack was no longer a short-term operation, but an ongoing process in which both sides continued adapting in an effort to gain the advantage. The threat had not truly disappeared. Infrared cameras showed wolves silently approaching the livestock pens before suddenly charging toward the panicked chickens. They repeatedly drove the birds into narrow corners, attacked in rapid succession, and disappeared with their prey. The footage revealed how even a small opening could carry serious consequences for farmers. For that reason, the conflict with wolves does not end after a single successful trapping attempt. It requires constant monitoring, stronger enclosures, and continuously changing strategies, because these predators are always watching, remembering, and searching for another way to return.
Coyote intrusions rarely begin with loud noises. Everything usually starts with small changes that gradually become more noticeable. During the farm's routine, the chickens suddenly become restless at night, the sheep crowd into one corner of their enclosure, and the guard dogs keep barking toward the dark fields. By morning, a trail of small but clearly defined tracks appears in the damp soil beside the fence, revealing that a coyote has returned. Those signs are enough for the farmer to understand that the predator is still silently watching the property. Those tracks are clearly different from those of a domestic dog or fox. They are smaller than gray wolf prints, with long, narrow toes, evenly spaced steps, and a trail continuing in an almost straight line. Before approaching the farm, coyotes quietly move along fences, drainage ditches, or familiar paths while observing the surrounding area. Rather than attacking immediately, they spend several nights studying livestock habits and human movements, waiting until everything becomes quiet. A single coyote can cause considerable damage, but they sometimes appear in pairs or small family groups. They divide their roles, watch the area, inspect fences, and search for openings or poorly protected locations. When no opportunity appears, they quietly retreat and return another night when conditions are more favorable. Their adaptability and ability to identify the right moment to attack force specialists to prepare stronger, systematic measures to protect livestock. For this reason, wildlife management teams inspect trails, drainage ditches, fences, dry streambeds, field edges, and open areas frequently used by coyotes. Every footprint, patch of flattened grass, section of disturbed soil, and small tree scratch is carefully recorded. Using these signs, the teams gradually identify the coyote's movement patterns, activity times, and most frequently used routes with greater accuracy. After confirming the travel routes, specialists choose suitable places to install ambush traps. These locations do not need to be wide or easy to observe, but must be narrow points the coyote will almost certainly cross along its familiar route. The traps are installed according to wildlife management procedures to reduce risks and minimize effects on other animals. Every step is carried out carefully to preserve the area's natural appearance and scents. Once installation is complete, almost no trace or scent of human presence remains. Dry leaves still cover the ground naturally, the trail remains unchanged, and the field returns to silence. Over the following nights, cameras repeatedly record coyotes appearing cautiously in the distance before disappearing again. Sometimes they change their activity hours, other times they observe for several minutes before quietly leaving. Because one mistake could make them avoid the area for weeks, no one rushes. Several days later, early one morning, unusual movement is detected near the traps. When the specialists arrive to inspect the site, they discover several coyotes caught along their regular route. The team immediately evaluates the surroundings, checks each animal's condition, and responds according to wildlife management procedures. Although they had prepared for this moment for days, every step is handled cautiously to ensure the safety of people and animals. The rapid response team approaches carefully, following safety procedures and field guidelines. Their goal is not to prove that humans are stronger than nature, but to protect livestock, reduce conflicts with wildlife, and handle the situation responsibly. Coyotes are extremely agile and cautious, and may react aggressively when cornered, so every movement and stage of the approach remains under strict control. However, capturing one coyote does not mean every problem on the farm has ended. Other individuals may quickly change routes, become active later, or move elsewhere to avoid danger. Coyote management is therefore a long battle of intelligence against clever, cautious, and highly adaptable animals. In nature, the advantage belongs to those patient enough to read subtle signs and choose the right moment. If you found this content useful, leave a comment and follow the stories still to come.
In many forests across North America, the presence of wolves is rarely announced by haunting howls echoing through the wilderness. Instead, the first signs are often subtle. A few calves disappear from grazing pastures. Flocks of sheep begin huddling together every night as darkness falls. Livestock guardian dogs become unusually alert, constantly staring toward the deep forest. By the time fresh tracks appear clearly in the damp soil along the fence line, wildlife managers already know that a wolf pack has established a new travel route. The real concern is not their numbers, but their patience and calculated behavior. Once they identify a reliable food source, a wolf pack can return to the same location for weeks, leaving almost no trace of error in its movements. Wolves have long been regarded as some of nature's most intelligent predators. Every member of the pack plays a distinct role. The alpha wolf usually leads the way, while the others maintain strategic spacing to surround prey or cut off its escape route. This coordinated behavior also makes them far more difficult to manage. A foothold trap placed in the wrong location is almost useless, because if just one wolf detects something unusual, the entire pack will immediately alter its route and avoid the area for a long time. For that reason, the most critical stage is not setting the trap, but gathering information. Infrared cameras are positioned along mountain passes, stream banks, and forest trails. Night after night, thousands of images are collected to determine exactly when the wolves appear, which direction they travel, and how much distance they keep between one another. After weeks of monitoring, a clear pattern begins to emerge. Wolf packs rarely move at random. They consistently favor natural corridors that require the least amount of energy. often choosing narrow passages between hillsides or flat ground bordering the forest. These routes are used repeatedly, as though they were familiar pathways passed down from one generation to the next. Only after every piece of data has been analyzed is the steel foothold trap placed in position. No one sets the trap where it is simply the most convenient. Instead, it is carefully positioned at the exact spot where a wolf is most likely to place its paw while traveling. Camouflaging the trap demands almost flawless precision. The soil is sifted and spread back over the trap to match the natural color of the forest floor. Dry leaves, small branches, and stones are returned to their original positions as though no one had ever disturbed them. The people carrying out the work must also minimize human scent around the site, because a wolf's sense of smell is sensitive enough to detect the slightest change that would go completely unnoticed by humans.
Just because I want put dirt clods. Y'all take it easy and just that.
Even with the trap perfectly concealed, however, the greatest challenge remains the caution of the alpha wolf. Whenever it encounters anything unfamiliar, it will usually stop, observe carefully, sniff the ground several times, and only then decide whether to move forward. That is why wildlife control teams must wait with extraordinary patience. Then, on a bitterly cold winter night, the long-awaited moment finally arrives. On the monitoring screen, the alpha wolf slowly follows its familiar trail. It pauses for a few seconds, lowers its nose to inspect the ground, and then continues forward. The instant its weight lands on the precisely calculated spot, the steel foothold trap is triggered. A rapid response team quickly arrives to handle the situation according to established wildlife management procedures, ensuring public safety while minimizing disturbance to the surrounding environment.
Nice. Man, what a beaut. What a beaut, guys. All right.
Yet controlling wolves has never ended with a single capture. The remaining pack members quickly adapt by changing their behavior, shifting to different travel routes, or adjusting their feeding schedule to avoid further danger. As a result, wildlife specialists must begin an entirely new cycle of observation. In this ongoing contest between humans and one of nature's most intelligent predators, the steel foothold trap is only a tool. The true deciding factors have always been patience, careful analysis, and a deep understanding of every habit within the wolf pack.
recent weeks, residents living near the forest have repeatedly reported packs of wolves appearing around farms and livestock areas. At first, the wolves stayed at a considerable distance, but over time they gradually moved closer to places where domestic animals were kept. People frequently spotted them traveling along forest edges, fences, and paths leading into agricultural areas. Most sightings occurred at dawn or shortly after sunset. As the frequency of their appearances increased, livestock owners became increasingly concerned about the safety of their cattle, poultry, and the surrounding farming areas. After observing the situation for some time, residents realized that the wolves' repeated visits were mainly caused by changes in their natural habitat. Food sources within the forest had become scarcer, forcing the animals to expand their hunting range in search of prey. Farms containing livestock, poultry, and small domestic animals offered an easier food source than the forest itself. After several successful hunting attempts, the wolves gradually memorized these locations and repeatedly returned along the same familiar routes. As a result, sightings around farming areas became increasingly common. In response to the growing problem, local residents began implementing a trapping program to control the movement of the wolf packs. Areas where the wolves frequently traveled were carefully monitored before suitable trap locations were selected. Forest edges, game trails, and sections near fences were prioritized for trap placement. Bait was also prepared to increase the likelihood of attracting wolves as they passed through the area. Throughout the setup process, the surrounding environment was kept as natural as possible to reduce suspicion and encourage the wolves to approach according to their normal behavior. After several days, the residents inspected the entire trap system that had been installed throughout the area. The results showed that several wolves had been successfully captured at different trap locations. As soon as they were discovered, everything was handled according to the planned procedures to ensure the safety of both the workers and the surrounding livestock. The area was carefully cleared before the next stage of the operation continued. At the same time, the effectiveness of each trap location was evaluated to determine which positions worked best and which required adjustment in order to improve future control efforts.
Just in the last 2 months.
Although many wolves had already been captured, the packs continued appearing around the area during the following days. This indicated that numerous individuals were still active near the farms and that the threat had not yet been completely eliminated. Residents quickly decided to install additional traps in locations that had proven more effective based on continued observation. Several trap sites were relocated to improve coverage, while additional bait was placed to increase the chances of attracting the wolves. Once the adjustments were completed, the entire trapping system remained in operation and continued to be monitored regularly in preparation for future inspections. During the following inspection periods, the trap system continued to prove effective as more wolves were gradually captured at the newly adjusted locations. Residents quickly handled each captured animal and reset the traps so the system would remain ready for continued use. Regular inspections combined with well-planned trap placement gradually improved the overall effectiveness of the control program. Over time, wolf sightings around the farms became less frequent, allowing agricultural activities to return to normal. Even so, residents continued maintaining the trap system and other protective measures to reduce the risk of wolves returning in the future, helping protect livestock and maintain long-term safety throughout the farming area. Do you know what is truly terrifying about wolves? It is not their sharp teeth, and it is not their chilling howls echoing through the dark. The most frightening thing is that by the time people realize they have been close, it is often already too late. They do not rush in and attack during the first few nights. Instead, they watch in silence, memorizing every fence line and every narrow trail around the chicken coop. And when several chickens suddenly disappear without leaving a trace, people finally understand that the hunt has truly begun. But this time, the prey is not only the helpless chickens inside the coop. It is also a tense battle of intelligence between humans and one of the smartest, most patient, and most unpredictable predators in North America. After receiving the report, wildlife managers do not rush into the forest with traps right away. They begin by setting up a monitoring camera system, aiming it toward narrow paths, fence lines, and the areas around the farm. The cameras are placed low enough to record the movement of each individual animal, but hidden well enough so the wolves do not become suspicious. For many nights in a row, Every movement in the darkness is recorded. The time the wolves appear, the direction they travel, the number of animals in the group, and even the distance between them are all carefully reviewed. Once the travel route has been identified, the trapping process begins. Every location is calculated carefully based on the data collected earlier. The trapper must work with extreme caution to avoid leaving behind human scent. A shallow bed is dug just deep enough, then covered with a fine layer of soil, so the surface looks completely natural. Every footprint around the area is erased before anyone leaves. Just one branch bent in the wrong direction, one overturned stone, or the faint smell of metal left behind can be enough for a wolf to detect danger and avoid the area completely. At this point, the conflict is no longer about strength. It becomes a contest of patience and the ability to deceive the senses of a predator. Many days pass, and the trap remains hidden beneath the soil while the cameras continue recording wolves moving through the area. Some individuals come very close, stop to sniff the ground, and then quietly turn away. They're not careless. They examine even the smallest changes in their surroundings before taking another step. One wolf may return to the same exact spot the next night simply to make sure nothing unusual has appeared. This nearly perfect level of caution is why many trapping operations can continue for weeks, and sometimes even months, before producing any result. After many days of silent waiting, the decisive moment finally arrives. Within a short period of time, several wolves are caught and held in place. The next morning, wildlife managers return to the site and find a major result after days of quiet observation, tracking footprints, checking night cameras, and carefully calculating the movement route of the entire pack. The outcome shows that the trapping plan was placed in the right direction, while also helping reduce the pressure the wolves had been putting on the surrounding area. But the remaining wolves quickly changed their approach. Around the farms, they quietly move closer to the fences, sniff around small gaps, and search for new ways to reach the chickens. That forces people to keep adapting as well. Cameras are moved closer to the chicken coop, fences are inspected more carefully, and trap locations must be adjusted according to the pack's new movement patterns. This is no longer a simple one-time response. It has become a long-running confrontation between the hunting instincts of wolves and the persistence of people trying to protect their livestock. Across the vast forests of North America, as night falls once again, the wolves continue to move silently along the same familiar routes. Somewhere in the darkness, infrared cameras keep recording every step, every pause, and every movement. Perhaps the most remarkable thing is not the perfectly hidden traps or the modern equipment placed in the forest. It is the extraordinary ability of wolves to adapt after thousands of years of survival. The struggle between humans and nature has never been only a story of strength. It is a battle of patience, intelligence, and the ability to understand one another.
It began with tracks appearing after a snowy night. They stretched from the stream, curved around the mountainside, then vanished at the forest edge. The farmers knew the wolf pack had returned but could not predict where it would appear next. Wolves remember old routes and rarely wander without direction, usually following paths used for generations along streams, mountain passes, and forest edges. The control team quickly surveyed the terrain and placed cameras at narrow points the wolves had to cross. However, they were not easily fooled. A strange scent or human trace could expose and ruin the plan. Therefore, using suitable traps became necessary. When a new route was found, the team returned to set traps. Foothold traps were placed along narrow passages between rocky slopes, while cage traps were prepared for safe capture. Everything seemed ready, but the first night brought only a herd of deer. On the second night, the cameras recorded 2 foxes fighting. By morning, new tracks were found in other directions. The wolves had noticed the change and switched routes. It proved that equipment was only part of the solution. Understanding their reactions determined success. As the old routes became ineffective, the team understood why the farmers were increasingly worried. Years ago, wolf howls were heard only occasionally from the mountains. Recently, however, some livestock had begun disappearing, while the remaining animals often panicked and crowded together. Cameras around the grazing area showed that the wolves never approached randomly. Some watched from a distance while others quietly moved along the forest edge. This coordination made predicting their route and stopping them far more difficult. After reviewing how the pack moved around the pasture, a veteran hunter suggested switching to a bow ambush. Only experienced hunters could handle the task because they needed a deep understanding of wolf behavior and habits. This also prevented unnecessary chases. Wolves often appeared in weak light, moved quickly, changed direction constantly, and rarely stayed still for long. Once, a camera captured only a gray shadow before it disappeared. The hunt was therefore more like a prolonged battle of judgment than a direct confrontation. The hunting team knew that one strange scent or disturbed branch could make the pack abandon its familiar path. They chose a downwind position near the main corridor and covered the hiding place with dry branches. After several patient attempts, the leading wolf finally appeared. It stepped from the trees, slowly sniffed the area, then stopped to observe. The hunter remained still until the animal entered the planned opening. When the moment became clear, he drew the bow and released the arrow. Only after confirming that no other wolves remained nearby did he approach to check the animal's condition. The management team understood that every captured wolf would make the others more cautious. Yet declining natural food sources still drove them toward farms at night. Residents reinforced fences, brought livestock into enclosed areas earlier, and added electric fencing for greater safety. Meanwhile, the team continued inspecting and adjusting the entire trap system. After many nights of monitoring, another wolf was captured along the main corridor. From then on, reports of wolves near the farms fell noticeably. As tracks around the farms became less frequent, residents felt safer when night arrived. Still, no one believed the problem had completely ended, because the pack remained somewhere within the vast forests. The greatest change was how people viewed the situation. Learning to understand, prevent, and adapt became the most sustainable way to protect livelihoods while preserving the natural balance.